Welcome to this latest Bristol Law Society webinar. This is all about working smarter with Outlook. And I'm going to be sharing today. I'm Chris Ball. You might have noticed I'm not Helen Reid. So I'm standing in for Helen when she's got much better things to do and probably much more enjoyable things. I am a Bristol Law Society Council member. And as some of you will probably know, I chair the Bristol and Bath Legal Tech Group, which works very closely with BLS on all things technology, innovation, etc. So really interested to listen in on this session and share it. The session is being recorded, so just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. There will be some handouts which we'll share afterwards. Might take a few days to get those together, but they'll be coming out to you as a bit of a prompt and a record of what you've heard today. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our guest speaker, then if you could drop them in the Q&A box, not the chat, but the Q&A, we'll pick them up, and presuming we've got time, we'll field them at the end. And we'll be all wrapped up and finished by 2 o'clock. So that's the basics. I now want to introduce and hand over to our speaker. If you've been on these sessions before, you'll have seen him deliver these, and it's been a very popular series. So introducing James Smith. James heads up the training at Quiss. James will explain to you a little bit more, I'm sure, about Quiss, but very, very prominent name in the legal technology, legal support arena. So I'm going to hand over to James. James, tell us all about working smarter with Outlook.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Right, let me share my screen with you. Okay, so the main topics that we'll be having a look at this afternoon is using auto text within email, message flags and reminders. We'll also look at something called conditional formatting, Outlook rules for automatically arranging your mailbox. We'll have a look at using and managing categories, using and managing something called quick steps, a bit of a look at something called to do, or using tasks, and then just a little bit of a shortcut for how you can create appointments or meetings directly from messages. So email auto text. So if you use Word regularly, you quite possibly are used to creating auto text entries for paragraphs, etc., that you use over and over again in documents. But you can also create auto text entries in Outlook as well. So if you've got particular paragraphs or lengthy phrases that you use in email messages a lot, you can create an auto text entry to speed up the process. So creating an auto text entry, all we'd simply do is create a new email, and I'm just going to put some random text into a message. So in my scenario, the couple of paragraphs, I use these a lot within email messages. So as you can see, it would take me quite a while to type all of this out. However, what I can do is I can create an auto text entry. So if I select all of this text, and on the ribbon up at the top, I go over to Insert, and under Insert, over on the right-hand side, I've got this text section, and I've got a section called Quick Parts. So the process for creating auto text within Outlook messages is exactly the same as the process that you would use to create them within Word. So if I go into Quick Parts, into auto text, now I've got a couple already set up. One's James Smith and one's JS. So what I will do is I'm going to save my selected text to the auto text gallery. So it pops up and it's going to create me a new building block. So again, if you've used these within Word, it's exactly the same functionality. So it gives it a name. It just uses the first two words that it picks up in this text. So I'm going to call this I'll call it auto 1, but name it anything that you want. The gallery it's going to store it in is it's going to put it in my auto text entries. If I click on the little drop down within here, there are a whole raft of other building block entries. So if you've ever used any of these within Word, they're also available in Outlook, but this is going to be an auto text entry. The category will default to its general. Again, if I click into here, you can even create different categories. So if you've got lots of these, you can categorize them to make them easier to find. You can put in a brief description of what it is, and then an important note of where it's going to save it. So it's going to save it in a Word template actually called normal email.m. So when you create auto text entries in Word, it generally saves them in your normal .m template. For email, there is a separate template for it. So it's just one to be aware of. If you create an auto text entry in Outlook, it won't be available in Word. It's only going to be available to you within Outlook messages. And then the final one is, do I just want to insert the content? Or do I want to put it in its own paragraph? In its own page is irrelevant for Outlook. But the difference between inserting the content only and inserting in its own paragraph, if I choose this option, when I insert this auto text, it will add it on a new line in my message. So I'll leave mine as just insert the content. And it's just a simple case of click OK. I can close this message. No, it doesn't matter about saving changes. I've created an auto text entry. So now, if you type too quickly then, as you type, it will give you a little pop-up prompt. So it picks up that there's an auto text entry called auto. Law of this, if I press enter, it enters my text into my email message, saving me all the time of having to type all of this out over and over again. So I can close out of this. Again, I don't need to save any changes. So it is simply a case of once you've saved it, and I'll just quickly go through this again. So in a new email, so I'll just put some text in. So it's just a case of select the text, go to the insert tab. Over on the right hand side, if you go into quick parts, and if we go into auto text, it then gives me the one that I created a couple of minutes ago. I save it to the auto text gallery, give it a name. Generally, you wouldn't need to change the gallery, the category. You don't need to save where it's changed. It's just give it a short name that's easy for you to remember. When you click OK, it's created. There's no further saving needed. And you've then got a shortcut to populate the body of your messages. Okay, let me close this message. So we'll have a look at message flags and reminders. So for message flags, and I'm going to use this one from events at Bristol Law Society. So if I need a reminder to say I need to do something with this, but not right now. So under the Home tab, just to the right of center, we've got tags. So I can mark things as read and unread. But in here, I've got an action option to say, I want to follow up on this message. And when I click on to follow up, it gives me a series of different options. So today, tomorrow, this week, next week. Just for information, today will remind me 30 minutes before the end of my working day. So whatever my working day is set within my Outlook calendar. So mine's set to say my standard working day is 9 till 5:30. If I flag this up to remind me today, it would remind me at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, it reminds me at 5 o'clock tomorrow. This week, it will remind me on whatever my last working day is this week. So my standard calendar is Monday to Friday. So if I say I want to be reminded this week, it will remind me on Friday afternoon. Next week, it reminds me on the first day of the following working week. So as I say, most people's standard working week is Monday to Friday. If I say, remind me about this next week, it would remind me on Monday afternoon next week. No date, I always find a little bit unusual because with no date, it doesn't remind you. It just puts a little flag in this flag column. Or we've got an option. We can go in and create a custom. So if I create custom, and I can flag to, am I following up? Or there is a whole range of different options in here. I'll just scroll up to the top. So actually, do I need a reminder to call somebody? Do I need to flag it to say don't forward? Am I following up? Is it for your information? Do I need to forward it? Am I flagging it to say, actually, I don't need to respond to this message? I can mark it to read, to reply all, and I can mark it to say I need to review it. So I don't necessarily have to say I need to follow up on this. It could be I need a reminder that I need to call. What date do I need to do this? And if I set a reminder, I can choose when is my reminder going to pop up. So in this case, the default setting is it's going to pop up this afternoon at 4:30. I can change this to anything. So I might say, actually, remind me tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. And I can say, OK. So marks it as flagged. And at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, I will get a pop-up reminder to say, you need to call regarding this email. Okay, let's just jump back into follow-up. So the custom ones, I set my date and time for the reminder, but I can change what I'm being reminded about. Or I can just add a reminder. So again, it opens up the same thing. What am I flagging it for? Start date set today. When is it due? When do I want my reminder? And if you wanted to clear it, there's an option you can clear the flag as well. So I'll just remove it from that one. Okay, let's just go back into follow-up. If I have dealt with it, I've got an option. I can mark it as complete. I can clear the flag. And then another one that some people like is this option to set a quick click. So if I just click away from this, so if I hover in this flag column, if you notice, let's use this one. So I get two options. I can flag it as a to-do item, or I can delete it. Now, it might be, I don't want the option to delete it, and you can customize this. So if I go to follow up, I can set my quick click, and what's it set on? So does it set it for today, tomorrow, this week, no date? Let's just jump back in. Set my quick actions. So action one is delete. Actually, I might say action one is going to be, I want to move it. Action two is I want to flag it or clear the flag. So now when I say OK, and I hover in here, I now get options. So I've just created myself some further shortcuts. I can click it to flag it. I can click it to move it to a different folder. I can click it to delete it. So all of these just creates me a very quick little shortcut. So it's just under follow up. My set quick click is it going to remind me today, tomorrow, this week, etc. Set quick actions, I can choose, is it going to move it? And there's a whole raft of them. So I can mark it as read or unread. I can delete it. I can archive it. I can actually even say, I don't want it to do anything. Okay. So that's our follow-up flags. So we can either do it, we can pick it from the list. We can set a specific reminder for a date and choose what type of reminder we want. Or we can set these quick clicks that I can go in. And for example, if I quickly click this, I can very quickly flag it for follow-up. Just on these follow-up, if you flagged something that's no longer visible, if you want to be able to see these messages that are flagged, there is the option under the View tab. Over on the right-hand side, within the to-do bar, is you can bring up tasks, which will show you your flag messages. And they're broken down into, I've got one for tomorrow, I've got a whole raft of them for today. So, and you can turn it on and off, but it's another one. If you've got messages that are flagged in subfolders, again, rather than you having to go and look through the subfolders, if you put your to-do bar with tasks on, you can see a list of your flagged messages, and you can turn it on and off. You don't have to have it switched on if you're using these flags. Okay, so that is message flags and reminders. I'll just go back to home. So we'll have a look now at conditional formatting. There was a question put in of around how do you monitor and keep an eye on important messages without being constantly bombarded with pop-ups and notifications. And a really handy one with this is that you can use conditional formatting. So I'm going to use this events Bristol Law Society. So for example, if I said events at Bristol Law Society are one of my key clients or key customers, if I receive an email from them, I want to be able to pick it out very quickly in my inbox amongst all of the other mail that's coming in. So what I can do is I can create a conditional format. And to do that, if I go to the View tab, and under the View tab, if I go into View Settings, and in View Settings, we've got conditional formatting. So as it says, it's user-defined fonts on messages. So if I open up conditional formatting, and what you will find is there are some that are already pre-built into Outlook. For example, unread messages, messages in other folders, things that have expired, but you can create your own. So all you guys would do is say, I want to add a new conditional formatting rule. And I'm going to call it BLS. Again, name them anything that you want. So with the font, this is how I want the message sort of header to be displayed in my inbox. So I'm going to go into font, and I want to be able to see this. So I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to change the color to, I'm going to set it to something really bright. Let's go with, I'm going to set it to fuchsia. There's also the option to say, do you want to make the text big, bigger, smaller? They're not very technical terms, but so I'm going to say I want it to make the text bigger. I want it bold, and I want it in fuchsia. So I'm definitely not going to miss any email. So click OK. Then I will add my condition. So this is the rule that it applies, and that is a whole raft of options. If it contains a particular word in the subject, if it's in the subject and body, I can say if it was from a certain person, if it was sent to a certain person. There's also options where you can say things like, I'm the only person in the to line, or I'm on the CC line with other people. So there's a whole range of options in here. I'm going to create quite a simple one. So I'm just going to say that it was from events at BristolLawSociety.com. If I just quickly jump into more choices, again, you can, if you've got categories, you can set it to say only if it's unread, if it's got attachments, if it was sent high importance, etc. So there's a whole raft. You can make these as simple or as complex as you want. What we find for a lot of customers is this is as much as they need. Is if I've got an email from this email address somewhere in my inbox, I want it to be colored so I can see it in an instant. So click OK. And OK again, and then finally OK again. And as you can see, it instantly applies it. Now, there's no way I'm going to miss these. Anything that came from events at Bristol Law Society is now much bigger. It's in this bright fuchsia and it's in bold. Now, I may decide, actually, I think I've gone a bit over the top here and I want to change that. So if I go back into View Settings, back into Conditional Formatting, and I'll choose my BLS, and I can edit it. So if I go back into the font, I'm going to make it normal size, and I'll change the color. I'm going to make it green. I'll keep it as bold because I want it to stand out, but I don't need the text bigger and I want a slightly more subtle color. So I click OK, click OK, click OK again. It still stands out and is easy to see. It's just not as prominent. And you can create as many of these as you want to. So as I say, for conditional formatting, this is probably one of the most simple ones, but it's a really handy one. As I say, if you've got a key client or customer, it might even be anything that comes from my head of department. I go in View Settings, in Conditional Formatting, you can add a new one, give it a name, you go into the font, you can even change what font it uses. Choose your style, size, the color. You can even set it to be underlined if you wanted to, and it will just apply it automatically. So I'll just OK on that. I'm going to say yes. If you wanted to remove a conditional formatting rule, again, in View Settings, into Conditional Formatting, select the one that you don't want anymore, and you can delete it. You can also move them around. So you can adjust the order of them. But as I say, what most people that we find use them for is for key contacts. I just want it to be in a different color and bold. So when I go to my mailbox, it's instantly visible for me. And it will still apply it if you moved it to a subfolder. So you wouldn't have to go and create another conditional formatting rule in a subfolder. Okay. So that is our conditional formatting. So as I say, if you've got key contacts that you want to be able to instantly see messages from them anywhere within your mailbox, you can create a conditional formatting rule to format the top level. If I open the message, it just behaves like a standard message. It's just where you see it in that top level within your inbox. Okay, let's go back to home. Some other options for organizing your mailbox. So another one that's often quite popular is using Outlook rules. So Outlook rules, often they're used to automatically file and organize your mail as it comes in. So under the Home tab within your mailbox, so in the Move section, we've got an option. We can move this message to a particular folder. We've got rules. We can send it to OneNote. So under the rules, because I've got this message selected, it gives me an instant option to say, do I want to always move messages that come in from Bristol Law Society? If I click this, it opens up a rule and alert, and it will ask me, which folder do you want to move it to? And scroll up here, I've got a folder called Bristol Law Society under my inbox. I can click OK. Notice it hasn't moved this one. Any new messages, as it decides to run it, will automatically go into that folder. There we go. And now if I go into rules, I've now got the one for the Zoom meeting. If I go manage my rules and alerts, I've got my events Bristol Law Society. Now what I can do is I could delete this. I can change it. As you can see, I've got some others as well. So I've got a rule that says if I receive an email with the word congratulations in the title, I want it to move to a particular folder. Similarly, if I receive an email that says ISO policies or ISO policies, I want it to move to a folder. The result of your quiz. These I've built because we have some pre-built rules that send automatic emails to my mailbox that say, congratulations, ISO policies, results of your quiz. And it just automatically files them for me. So I'm just going to delete this Bristol Law Society rule. And I'll say, OK. So I'm going to use this Kiss Mail admin to say, Mimecast has suspected somebody sent me a spam email and it's placed it on hold. So I might want to create a rule to deal with these because it's not important. So if I go to rules, and rather than going with the straightforward one of saying always move messages from Kiss Mail admin, what I can do is I can go in and say, I want to create a rule. So creating my rule, so when I get an email with all of the selected conditions, so for example, is it from Kiss Mail admin? And I could also say, is it from Kiss Mail admin and the subject contains you've got new held messages? I could also include only if it was sent to me. We've then got some things of, okay, what do I want it to do if this happens when mail comes into my mailbox? So there is an option. I can say, tell it to display in a new alert window. This is similar to the conditional formatting in that you could create custom alerts to say, if I receive an email from this person, show me this particular notification, rather than just the standard pop-up one in the bottom corner that says you've got a new email. Or I can say I want to move it to a new folder. Now, down at the bottom, I've got some more advanced options. And if I open this up, so within my advanced options in my wizard, so it's picked up, I've said, if it's from Kiss Mail admin with you have new messages in the subject. I've then got a whole raft of other conditions that I can ask it to check. So for example, if it's assigned to a category, if there's an attachment with it, if it's an automatic reply is another handy one that if you get automatic replies, some people set them up and say, if I get an automatic reply from somebody, just file it in this folder. I'll go and review them as and when I want to. If you want to change or assign any of these, if I say it's marked as importance, in the bottom section, it gives me my values. So Kiss Mail admin, you have new held messages marked as, if I click importance, I can then choose what level of importance the message was sent at. So I'll say it was normal. And again, you can go through and you can select as many of these. So these rules can be as simple or as complex as you want. I then click next. So these are the criteria I want. The message came from Kiss Mail admin saying in the subject, you have new held messages, and it was sent normal importance. I click next. Now I can choose, what do I want to do with the message? So one of the common ones is move it to a particular folder, file it for me. I could assign a category to it. I can delete it. I can permanently delete it. I can move a copy of it to a particular specified folder, which would leave the version in my inbox and put a copy in a subfolder. I can set it to be forwarded to other people. So another one that people sometimes use these rules for is if they're going to be out of the office and they're expecting an important email, for example, from a key client, they could set up a rule that says, if this person sends me an email while I'm away, forward it on to this person to make sure that somebody receives it and will be able to see it and deal with it if needs be. There's even options that you can reply using a template. So if you create a message and save it as a template, you can even set it to say, automatically send a reply back using this email. You can set it to flag it and set it to follow up automatically. I could print it, I could mark it as read. Again, I've got options that I can display desktop alerts. So for this, I'm going to say I want it to move it to a specified folder, and I'm going to say I want it to move it to the temp folder. Okay, so if I then go next, now I can build in, are there any exceptions? So for example, except if it was only sent to me, or for example, except where my name is not in the to box if I've been copied into it, except if the body contains specific words. So it could be, yes, it's from Kiss Mail admin, it says you have new held messages in the subject, it was sent normal priority, but if it's got these specific words in the body, I don't want the rule to process. So you can add an exception to say, don't process it if there's this condition. When I click next, so what name do I want? I'll call it Kiss Mail Admin. Do I want to turn the rule on? And then there's also the option to say, do I want to run the rule now for messages already in my inbox? This is a really handy one if you're using rules to tidy up an auto file. If you tick that box, you won't need to go through and go, okay, any future ones will be moved. If I tick this box, it's going to automatically move anything from Kiss Mail Admin that matches these criteria into that temporary folder for me. So I can click finish and it's moved it, and it'll run through my entire mailbox. Let's just jump back onto this Zoom message, and it's moved anything that came from Kiss Mail Admin with that subject. It's moved it to that temp folder. Okay, so if I just jump back into rules, I can manage my rules and alerts. So as I say, if I wanted to change one, I can select it. I can change the rule. I can set it. There's some very simple ones. Copy it to a folder, play a sound. I could rename it. If I edit the rule settings, it reopens that wizard and I can go through and I can change any of those settings to adjust it. Okay. Or I can remove it completely. Okay. One thing just be aware of with rules, Outlook, when you create a rule, it uses or stores it, it uses up, it's only a very small amount of memory. But Outlook does have, if I remember correctly, a 20 megabyte limit on storage for rules and alerts. I've only ever met one person that ran out of that that storage limit, and they'd got something like 60 or 70 rules set up. When they went to create the 71st, as it were, Outlook said there's no more memory available. But if you've got half a dozen, no problem at all. It is just the thing of just be aware, if you create literally dozens and dozens and dozens of them, there will come a point where you'll get a message of it saying you can't create anymore, it's run out of memory. Okay, so that's creating rules. A slightly more simple one to help you organize your mailbox is using categories. And people often use categories either for their mailbox and or for their calendars as well. So if I use this Zoom message, so as you can see from my columns, I've got who it was from, the subject, when it was received, how big it is. I've got categories. I've got mentions if somebody's mentioned me, and I've got my flag column. So again, in tags, I can categorize my messages. So I've created a whole raft of different ones. It's an external meeting, it's holiday, it's internal, it's me, it's non-work, it's my colleague, it's training prep. So for example, this Zoom meeting, I could categorize this and say, actually, this is training. It just puts a little marker in the category. I just widen that out. And the thing with this is, what you can do with these is you can sort them by categories. So you can group your messages together. I go back into categorize. If I go to all categories, it will open them up. In here, I can create or I can rename my categories. So if I create another new category, I'll call it BLS. And I'm going to go with, I'll go with this sort of orangey red. You can even set a shortcut key. They are limited. It's control and your F keys if you wanted one. So okay. I'll untick that and click OK, because you can assign more than one category to a message. So this is currently flagged as training. If I go to categorize it, I could also say, actually, it's training and it's Bristol Law Society. So it puts both, just gives me a little visual of what does this email relate to. In my reading pane, it tells me it's categorized as BLS and as training. And if I open it up, again, it will show me just in the header, puts a little color category. So again, these things, it's not a case of if you use all of these, you'll gain full control of your mailbox and you'll be super efficient. It's the thing of, for some people, this is as much as they need just to help them pick out, I don't want a conditional formatting rule, but I do want something just to give me a little visual that tells me what this message is related to, in which case you can use categories. If I go back into categorize, and there is a very quick click way of saying, actually, I want to remove those categories. So if I clear all categories, I can remove categories from it. Other things we can do is I can set a quick click. So when clicking on it in the categories column, it could be, I'm going to say, this is, I'm going to say it's training. So click OK. So now if I click in the categories column, it automatically applies that category. So for me, it could be 99% of what's in my mailbox is related to training. Setting my quick click just lets me go through and I can just click, it instantly categorizes it. If I click it again, it removes that category. Okay, so within categorize, as I say, if we go to all categories, you can create them, you can rename existing ones, you can even delete categories that you'd created if you're thinking, actually, I don't use this anymore. Okay. Also with categories, I jump over to my calendar, you can also categorize meetings and appointments. So I can categorize this as blue. I've got a meeting this afternoon with a colleague to look at a DMS, which I can say this is an internal meeting. Again, it just gives me a very quick and easy view of, okay, oh yes, that's an internal meeting. I know that blue is training. I've got a project meeting tomorrow. I might decide that one is also going to be an internal meeting. So again, your calendar and your mailbox categories just give you a very quick visual of what does this actually, what's this related to? Okay, let's just jump back over to mailbox. So that's our categories. The next one to look at is something called quick steps. So quick steps sit under the home tab, right in the center of the ribbon, and you will have a set of default, what are termed quick steps. So you will have move to folder, team email, reply and delete, to manager, done, and an option to create a new one. And the idea of these is I want a one-click button to carry out a particular action. If you've never used them before, for example, to manager, of course, Outlook doesn't know who your line manager is. So if you've never used it before, the first time that you click to manager, it will ask you for the email address of your manager. Similarly, team email, obviously it doesn't know the email address of your team if one exists. Again, it would ask you. And you can create your own. So if I go into create a new quick step, so what do I want to name it? And it calls it my quick step, but you name it anything that you want. And then you can choose an action. So, and there's a whole range of them. So for example, I want to move it to a folder. I want to copy to a folder. So similar to rules, the difference with these is it won't happen automatically. It gives me the option of saying, I want to do the process this message. So I'm going to say, I want it to mark it as read. I'll add another action and I want it to categorize it. I'll choose a category and I'm going to say, I want to mark it as read. I want it to categorize it as training. I'll add another action. I also want it to, let's have a look. I'm going to say, I want it to create an appointment with the text of the message. Okay, and as you can see, you could go on and add more and more steps. So this is quite a specific thing of, What I want this to do is mark the message as read. I want to categorize it as training, and I want it to create me an appointment using the text within the message. And you can create shortcut keys. Okay. Tooltip text. This is, if you hover over it, you can create your own custom tooltip. So I'll say categorize, and because I named it my quick step. So when I click finish, I've now got within here my new quick step. So what I should have, let me just go back in and manage those. If it had saved it, what it should do is create me a quick step. When I click it, it runs all of those things. Let me just go in and edit one of these. Manage my quick steps. Let's say to manager. I'll edit this. So in this case, it's going to manager is going to forward the selected message to a particular person. You don't have to have it to forward. You could have it, move it to a folder, copy it to a folder, etc. In this case, I'm just going to forward it to myself and save it and say OK. So if I select this zoom, and I can either select it just from my inbox, or if I open it, I can choose to manager. It creates me my forwarded message. It's already addressed. I just type it up and hit send. Okay. Again, quick steps, they're one of those. If you've got something that you need multiple steps and you don't want it to always apply it without you selecting that you want it to happen, you wouldn't use a rule. You could create a quick step so that you can choose, when I click this, I want it to do this, 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 and this with this particular message to save me having to go through several steps. Okay. And then sort of linking all the way back to our follow-up is to do and tasks. So over on the left, so I've got my mail, my calendar, I've got my people or contacts, and then I've got to do. Now, in previous versions of Outlook, to do was called tasks, but it's evolved somewhat. So if I go to do, it's going to take me out of Outlook and it opens to do. Now, I've got tasks. I've got 53 that I've completed. I've got 72 flagged emails. I've got 2 that are assigned to me. I've got some that are planned. I've got 2 that are important, and I've got my name. So if I go to flagged email, it then shows me these are all the emails in my mailbox that I've flagged for follow-up. I go to my tasks, as I say, I've completed them. So what this will let me do is I can go in and add a task. So no. Collate the working smarter with Outlook guides. And I can add a due date. So I'm going to say I need to collate them tomorrow. I can set it to remind me. So I'm going to say I want it to remind me. I'm going to pick a date and time. I'm going to say I want it to remind me tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Okay. Then I've got an option even that I can even say actually, and this repeats. In this case, I'm going to say it doesn't repeat, but I've got a task. Collate the working smarter with Outlook guides tomorrow, and I want a reminder at 3 o'clock. I can add this. So tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I will get a pop-up to say you need to collate the working smarter with Outlook guides. If I just go back to my mailbox, I don't have to worry about flagged messages. The other thing to note with to do is if you create something in your to-do list in Outlook, I jump over to Teams. Within Teams, if you add the Planner app under your My Tasks, you will have your flagged emails assigned to me, private tasks. So it will link through into here as well. So you can things that you've set up in Outlook, you can also access them through Teams as well. So you're not just pinned to Outlook for if you're using tasks and creating to-do lists. Okay, and then the final one was creating appointments from messages. So we've got an option we can do it with a quick step. There's a couple of other options that you've got if you want to create an appointment from a message that's in your inbox. So if I use this Zoom, what I can do is I can drag this message up onto my calendar, and when I release it, let's bring this over so we can see it. It creates me an appointment, uses the title will be the subject of the message. It's even brought across the categories. I just need to fill in my location. I could even say, actually, I'm going to turn this into a Teams meeting, but the detail from the message is in my appointment. I just need to choose my date and time. So if I close that, so that's one way of I can just click and drag and just drop it onto my calendar. It will create me an appointment. Now, there is another option. So with my calendar, if I right click onto my calendar icon, so there's a couple of different options within here that you may not have seen and you may find handy. One is show the peak on hover. Now, if I just click away, if I just hover over my calendar, it gives me a little peek preview of this is what's coming up in your calendar. However, if I right click onto it, I can say I want to show the peak, I want to dock the peak, or there's an option to say, actually, I want to open my calendar in a new window. So this, let's just move this window over here. I'll just arrange this. So this lets me look at my calendar and my inbox at the same time. I mean, I've got dual screen, so I could drag my calendar over onto a separate screen. But the other thing that we can do now is if I want to create an appointment from this email, I can click and drag it onto my calendar. It creates me an appointment at the point that I drop it on my calendar. So rather than me just dragging it to the calendar, then having to say, actually, I want this at 2 o'clock on Friday, not 2 o'clock this afternoon, it would allow me to have both up on screen. I can drag this message over onto my calendar and drop it on the time slot that I want to create my appointment in. Obviously, once I've got that, I could convert it into a meeting and invite other people. Okay, let's close that. That was pretty much everything from our sort of working smarter. As I say, it's not a case of if you use all of these, you'll be ridiculously efficient and your mailbox will be the tidiest it's ever been. It is a thing of hopefully one or two of these you'd see of actually that's handy and it will save me some time and help me better manage my mailbox. There was one question that came in before the webinar around AI tools. The main one is Microsoft's Copilot that you can use if you've got a Microsoft Copilot license. You can ask it to interrogate your mailbox. So, for example, with AI, you can ask it. In this case, I could say, "What's the latest from my colleague Andy Hawley?" Copilot would go and look through my mailbox and give me a breakdown of all the latest messages, meetings, and everything else that's been going on with Andy Hawley. There's also the option, because I've got Copilot, is I can draft replies with Copilot and tell it what sort of tone I want in my response, etc. And another handy one is I can ask Copilot to summarize the content of a message. So if I'm part of an email chain that's been going backwards and forwards for quite a while, with AI and Copilot, you can say, actually, summarize this thread because it's been going on for weeks, and I just wanted a high level summary of what's been happening. Okay. Were there any questions dropped in during the session?
There were. Can you hear me okay, James?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got there's one in there, and then there's the long list of questions I've got, but I promise I won't ask them all. So yeah, we got one from somebody, and I think you may have answered this in various ways during the session, but it'd probably be good to highlight what you think the right answer is. Can you auto categorize is one question, or can you only do it manually?
With the auto categorize, you could set a rule to do it. So if I go into rules and I create a rule, so for example, if I wanted to automatically categorize any message that came from Zoom, so I can say it's from Zoom. If I go to my advanced options, within here, I would assign it to BLS. I want it to assign it to the training category, for example. I can say OK on that. I can say next. I've already assigned it. I want to assign it to a category. Actually, I can undo that. I can click next. Now I wanted to assign it to a category. Oh, sorry, bear with me. I'm a step ahead of myself. It's from Zoom. I want it to, okay, then next. Assign it to a category, this category. Next. There aren't any exceptions. Next. I'll give it a name and finish. I could say yes to that. So now any email that I ever receive from Zoom will automatically be categorized as training for me. So yeah, with those, you could create quite a few different rules with that to say if it's got this in the subject, categorize it and have Outlook automatically categorize messages as they come into your inbox.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks for that, James. I haven't got a long list of questions, I promise, but I got two
Okay.
that kind of came up during the session. So you just mentioned Copilot at the end there. Looking at all the things you've talked about, all the features and functions you've talked about today, are any of those only available if you have Copilot, or are they all available in standard
all of
365?
the auto text, the flags, reminders, the conditional formatting, rules, categories, quick steps to do are all standard Outlook functionality. The only one that's Copilot specific was that one to say summarize this email thread. But yeah, everything else is standard built into Outlook.
Right, that's good to know. And then the other question, and I suspect there's 1,001 answers to this, is a lot of the things you've shown there create different displays. You know, whether it's color category, showing it in a different way, putting it in a different place. When with people using mobile devices, iPhones, um, other phones are available, and iPads and so on for this. How much of that translates? So should it all just translate over to your mobile device in the same way, or are there, and you don't have to go into the details, are there limitations to how that then?
If you are using the Outlook app,
Yeah,
pretty much everything that we've looked at would translate across. So things like automatically assigning categories, your mailbox effectively in 365 would apply it. When you open that up on your phone, that category should be displayed. Yeah, if you're using the Outlook app, things like categories, etc., flags, reminders should all work whether you're on a tablet, a phone, or on your laptop.
yeah, and the conditional formatting, the colors and the font size and all of that should flow through.
Yeah.
Is there any limitation to how much of it you can, how much of what you've shown us today you can do on a phone? actually setting it up, going through the category
Um,
and conditional formatting. Do you know if there's a cut down menu?
it would probably be conditional formatting would probably be slightly cut down on a phone, for example.
Yeah.
But certainly things like categories, creating and assigning them, you should be able to do that exactly. Well, not exactly as I would here because I use the mouse, but effectively the same sort of process on a phone or a tablet.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. I've got a possibly what will be the final question, as we're up against time. Somebody's come in and said, is Copilot, so it's a Copilot question, is
Okay.
Copilot closed in Outlook? And so no concern regarding your sensitive information being taken out of emails and I guess used
Yes,
or used for
absolutely.
training.
It is. Copilot is completely locked down to your mail. It can't give anything it finds. It can't process that externally. So it is only available to you.
Yeah.
The only caveat to mention with that, with Copilot, is if you've got Copilot and you've got access to somebody else's mailbox, Copilot can go and look in their mailbox because, of course, you can. But yeah, with Copilot, if I asked it, I use the Andy Hawley, for example, if I said to it, show me all the detail or show me the high importance messages from Andy, it's only going to show that information to me. It won't share it anywhere externally.
Yeah. That is great. Just typing that. Um, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I think we've covered some questions there. Great to have you on again, James. Hopefully there's some more in this series to come. And thank you everybody for joining us. As you heard, you get the recording, you'll get a handout to give you some probably very welcome prompts and reminders about what James has just talked through. And there's also going to be a feedback form for you to complete. If you could fill that in, that would be fantastic. We really do value the feedback from these sessions. So James, thank you. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks for joining. Have a good afternoon.